Hello and welcome to episode 44 of the Mr. Douglas Sports Show. I am your host as always, Corey Douglas, and I'm just going to jump right into it on this episode. Start with the NBA. I'm going to start with some sad NBA news, and that is Lamarcus Aldridge announced his retirement from the NBA this week. In a statement on his social media, he said that his last game that he played for the Brooklyn Nets, he played with an irregular heartbeat. He stated that later that night, the symptoms got worse, and he found it in his best interest to step away from the game that he's been playing all his life. So first, I just want to salute Lamarcus Aldridge. I think this is just an incredibly smart decision. Obviously, it's real tough for professional athletes to walk away from a game or walk away from the game not on their own terms, but I salute Lamarcus Aldridge because he prioritized his health over chasing a ring there with the Brooklyn Nets. Second off, Lamarcus Aldridge is a Hall of Famer. He's going to go, I think as soon as he's eligible. In his statement, he thanked Portland for the years that he had there. He thanked San Antonio for five great years there. And he also thanked the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, he wasn't there for, more than a couple of weeks, but he cited that they really helped him get to the hospital and really diagnose, what was going on with him. So again, salute to Lamarcus Aldridge. He has a family, kids at home, so prioritizing health should be number one, and that is what it was in this scenario. So once again, salute Lamarcus Aldridge. The second thing I want to get to is it was announced this week by the NBA Hall of Fame or the Basketball Hall of Fame that Michael Jordan will induct Kobe Bryant into the Basketball Hall of Fame later this year. Of course, Kobe Bryant was supposed to go into the Hall of Fame last year, but due to the circumstances going on in the world, that could not happen. And now he goes in this year along with the 2021 class. And I think this is going to be another time or another moment where it's going to be an emotional time for Kobe fans, basketball fans, and then especially Kobe Bryant's family, his wife Vanessa and his daughters. And I think the Basketball Hall of Fame got this right by having Michael Jordan do the honors to put Kobe in the Hall of Fame. So I can't wait to see that moment. Like I said, it's going to be emotional, but I am excited to see that. And it's incredibly special because obviously Kobe Bryant looked up to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was kind of his bigger brother, and he patterned his game after Mike. He's the closest thing we've seen to Mike. So like I said, who else would be better to induct Kobe Bryant to the Hall of Fame more than Michael Jordan? Third thing this week I want to get to before I get to the Mavs recap is Kevin Durant found himself in a bit of hot water again this week on social media. But I have to say this time I am siding with KD on this one. So for those that are not aware, Kevin Durant saw a clip of Shannon Sharpe responding to a fake quote that did not come from Kevin Durant. But basically Shannon Sharpe was calling out Kevin Durant for the quote. So let me just go ahead and pull up the quote, read this off to you real quick, and give you my thoughts on that. So the fake quote is, "People try to discredit my rings, but honestly I feel like they're the most valuable of our era. People argue LeBron is the GOAT, but if I beat him in back-to-back finals, then what does that make me?" So first of all, that quote doesn't even sound anything like Kevin Durant, especially from the things that he said publicly in the past about not really caring about the media's perspective or fans' perspective or trolls or haters. But on the flip side of that, KD's found himself in a lot of hot water, and he's brought a lot of this to himself because, he gets caught with the burner account a few years ago. He is in a feud with Michael Rappaport. Although, I think there's blame on both sides of that argument there. But he's always consistently on Twitter going back and forth with fans and trolls and just responding to everything. So obviously he's going to catch heat just based off the reputation alone. But in this situation, I put more blame on Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe, why are you taking off with fake quotes from the internet? You have a lot of resources at your disposal, I'm pretty sure, working for Fox Sports, to where you don't have to be on social media running with the first thing that you see on the internet. So once KD saw the Shannon Sharpe kind of going in on him, he retweeted the tweet saying that y'all's drunk uncle is at it again, spewing fake stuff. And of course, Shannon Sharpe saw that. That leads to a back and forth. They go back and forth on Twitter for a little bit, and then it ends up with Shannon Sharpe actually blocking Kevin Durant on Twitter, which was hilarious to me. And then KD, once he saw that, he posted a screenshot with saying the screenshot saying that Shannon Sharpe has blocked you, and he said that, but I'm sensitive, which KD, you are sensitive, but in this case, I understand kind of why you're going back and forth with him. Like I said, I put more blame on Shannon Sharpe in this situation. And then lastly, last thing I want to get to before I get to the Mavs is Dwayne Wade is now part owner of the Utah Jazz. And this is huge on multiple levels because the Utah Jazz and the franchise and the fans in that area don't have the best reputation when it comes to black athletes, African Americans, and their views on kind of the stuff that's been going on in the world, for hundreds of years at this point. In the article, Dwayne Wade states that this is more than a basketball decision, but more of a life decision, and his path to being an investor and a businessman. He cites his relationship with majority owner Ryan Smith as a big reason. He said that they have a really great relationship right now, they've developed a really good relationship. He also cited that the relationship with Donovan Mitchell is a big contributor to him pursuing this investment. And then he also, shouted out the Miami Heat fans, saying that, his love for the fans, the organization, the players there does not change with this. But he said, again, this is more of a life decision, and he looks at this this investment as more than a basketball decision, but he plans to be very vocal in the community and really promote, some of the change that he's been using his platform to use and to push. So again, salute to Dwayne Wade for becoming part owner of the Utah Jazz. And now it's time to go ahead and transition over into the Dallas Mavericks. And before I get into recapping the 3 games from this week, I have to get into some of the news that they made off the court. So after one of these losses that they had this week, Luka Doncic said that he doesn't understand the point of having a play-in tournament after fighting the entire season, playing 72 games to fight for your positioning, to have to then defend your positioning if you are a 7th or 8th seed. And then that led Mark Cuban to going on a bit of a media tour, explaining or expressing his frustration with the play-in process, which is something that him and all the other owners in the league voted for. He said that looking back at it, it's an enormous mistake because of, he cited multiple issues, kind of this being an unusual season, a shortened season, a condensed season where teams are having to play, like I said, 20 games in 30 days. And there's just a lot going on around the NBA, which I understand where he's coming from. But I will say the timing of this looks really suspicious because the Mavericks just can't seem to get out of their own way to try to get out of the play-in situation. They've been right there at the doorstep of the 6th seed for, it seems like, a month now, and they just can't quite get over the hump. Portland, who right now holds the 6th seed, is only a game up on Dallas, but they've hit a bit of a lull. But the Mavericks just can't seem to take advantage of it. And I will say this, I'm not for the play-in situation, just because the format, I felt like last year was so far superior to the format that they have for this year. So this year they're including the 7th and 10th seeds, which, I mean, if you look at the 10th seed right now in the East, it's the Chicago Bulls. They are 10 games under 500. Why do they get an opportunity to knock out a potential 7th or 8th seed as a 10th seed that's 10 games under 500? That just makes no sense to me. And then why a 7th seed, like right now the 7th seed in the East is not as dramatic as the 7th seed in the West. Of course, you have the Miami Heat, who are only 1 game under 500. And then you have the Mavericks, who are 6 games over 500 in the West right now at the 7th seed. But why are you including the 7th seed? If you are good enough to be the 7th seed in the Western Conference, you should not have to fight for your positioning with a play-in tournament. So it just made no sense from that standpoint. But on the flip side of that, I understand why the NBA did it. It's a moneymaker. It was so successful last year. And when you look at the Western Conference, you could potentially have names like Stephen Curry in this play-in situation, Zion Williamson, Luka, Dame Lillard potentially, John Morant potentially. So it's going to get a lot of eyeballs and it's going to draw a lot of money. So I get that aspect of it. But again, including the 7th and 10th seeds is completely nuts. But on the court, the Mavs hosted the San Antonio Spurs last Sunday night. This was a very important game. Right now, the current standings are San Antonio's 10th, so they are fighting to keep in that play-in tournament situation. The Mavs are the 7th seed looking to move up. They're right there on the doorstep for the Portland Trail Blazers. But this was a game that you could tell from the very jump meant more to the San Antonio Spurs. They were playing harder. They were into the Mavericks' bodies. And outside of Luka and KP, the rest of the Mavs did not bring it. So when I look at the box score, you look at Tim Hardaway Jr. Did not make a shot from the field. He went 0 of 5 from the field total, 0 of 3 from 3. He had 2 points total. Jalen Brunson, 4 of 15 from the field, only 11 points. This is a game that Maxi Kleber missed due to some injuries that he has going on. So Melly got the start. He had 6 points. Finney Smith only had 9 points. So once again, this is a prime example of even if KP and Luka are playing extremely well, the Mavs need the 3rd, 4th, and 5th best players on the team to play their roles and make an impact on the game. And this is a situation where that did not happen in this San Antonio game. When you look at DeMar DeRozan on the flip side, he has 33 points. He ends up hitting the game winner. He was just torching Dorian Finney-Smith the entire second half. The Spurs as a team were torching the Mavs defense. They shot over 60% in the second half after the Mavs had a 5-point lead at halftime. This is a game where you think that the Mavs are turning a corner, coming off, wins against the Bucks, and they're 20-11 or whatever in the last 30 games. But once again, they proved they can get beat by anybody on any given night, and that struck again in this game. And this was a crucial loss because, like I said, Portland they're kind of on a slider right now. They're entering a really tough part of their schedule. So this is a situation where the Mavs could have passed Portland, I feel like a couple of weeks ago, but they didn't. And a big reason why is losing games, like losing to the Rockets last week and then losing to the Spurs starting off this week. So then you move to Monday night against the Philadelphia 76ers. Obviously, second night of a back-to-back, so KP doesn't play. So this is a game that is on Luka's back. I thought Luka, coming into this game, he had not had over 20 points in any career game against Philadelphia. He had 32 in this one. But again, when the roster is missing a guy like Porzingis, this roster is not good enough to make up for that or for those losses against an elite team in the NBA. So just a quick box score check on this one. So obviously this game was a game that was dominated by Joel Embiid. The Mavs had no answers for him. Joel Embiid had 36 points and he did not even play the fourth quarter. Anytime they needed a bucket, they went to him and he got it. So now I do want to go back kind of early in the game because I felt like the Mavs were playing with a lot of energy early. I think this is a game where they realized that their backs were against the wall. They knew this was an elite opponent, and they played up to that standard in the first, to start the game in the first quarter. But you could just tell Philadelphia is just an elite basketball team, and they kind of leaned on you, and they kind of pulled away. So they beat the Mavs 113-95. Maxi Kleber did return from this game, but this was another game where Hardaway did not play well, shooting 3 of 9 from the field, only 9 points. Josh Richardson is a complete disaster. We'll talk about more of him in that Memphis game in here in a second. Luka, like I said, did his thing, 32 points. Jalen Brunson did not play well. He had 15 points on 7 of 14 shooting, which if you didn't watch the game, you would think, oh, that's not bad, 50% shooting, right around his average as far as points per game. But a lot of his points came late in garbage time. Maxi Kleber, only 3 points. Finney Smith, he had 12 points. Then Melly came in, didn't make a shot. So, again, this is just a roster that's just not good enough to compete with the elite opponents right now, especially without KP. So then the third game and final game of the week was the Mavericks went to Memphis to take on the Grizzlies. This was kind of similar to a play-in situation in terms of both of these teams are fighting for the play-in tournament. In the Mavs case, they both have a chance to get out of the play-in situation. Memphis currently sits in the 8th seed. And I have to be honest with you, in this game, the Mavs had no business winning this game. They were outplayed the majority of the game. Once again, Luka and KP played well. KP had 21 points on 7 of 13 shooting. Luka had 29 points on 10 of 20 shooting. And this was all about the second half for Luka. Luka only had 4 points in the first half, but I think he took on the mindset of, I'm going to get my other guys involved, and then when it's time, I'm going to try to take over and win this game. Obviously, he does it, but it was not easy. Of course, he hits the game-winning shot, which was an incredibly difficult shot to make. But I want to go over a little bit of the last 25 seconds of this game once the Mavs cut the Memphis lead to 1 after a Luka 3. So I'm just going to go ahead and read the play-by-play for those last 25 seconds. So, like I said, Luka makes a 3, cuts it to a 111 to 110 deficit. Memphis inbounds the ball. Mavs foul immediately. Ja goes to the line, makes both free throws. So there's about 24.8 or 7 seconds left in the game. And the Mavs Luka spent about 20 seconds dribbling. And he goes up for a shot in near the paint. So it was obviously a 2-pointer. You're down 3 at this point. Gets fouled. He makes the first free throw. And then he looks back at Rick Carlisle, trying to see, should he make it or miss this free throw? Well, he misses the free throw. The ball gets to Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen is shooting 90% from the from the free throw line this season. He goes and misses both free throws to keep the score at 113 to 111. Mavericks call timeout. And a big important part of this is after the second free throw, Dwight Powell, who has really been playing better as of late, grabs the most important defensive rebound of the game. And like I said, the Mavs call timeout. They advance the ball. Maxi Kleber inbounds the ball to Luka. And Luka, in the past, in this same play that they've ran, he ventures out to near the half-court line. So I'm thinking that's what's going to happen in this play. Instead, he comes in, and it looks like he's probably trying to get fouled on this play. But he ends up shooting a runner from 3, goes in. And at the time the shot goes in, you're thinking, or at least me, I'm thinking, I'm not sure if that was a 2 or a 3. So I'm holding off my excitement of him actually making the shot, because obviously winning the game versus going overtime is a completely different mindset, because the Mavs, especially in this game, were outplayed by Memphis. It goes to replay, determined it's a 3. The Mavs get out of there, and this set the sports world into a frenzy. The whole sports world, entertainment world is in a frenzy. You got LeBron James tweeting about it. You got Dez Bryant tweeting about it. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Neymar from soccer, and just a bunch of excitement from the players on the team. And you could tell that the Mavericks knew they had no business winning this game, but because the Mavericks have the best player in any given game, against any given opponent, anything can happen. We saw that in the bubble against the Clippers once KP went out. Luka is good enough to beat you one or two times, especially in a series, but on any given night, he can go out there and win you a game. Carlisle said after the game that he can't describe how many times that Luka has took money from him just based off some of the crazy shots that Luka can make. And I think a big thing for this shot is, like, obviously it's a floater from the three-point line, which is just unheard of. Nobody does that. But Luka works on this a lot. So JJ Redick said on his podcast that he was joking with the trainers, that the trainers were saying that Luka works on these trick shots more than he does his actual game, which obviously is not true, but it just shows like Luka is practicing these shots, and it might seem like he's playing around, but this is actually for a purpose, and you just never know when you'll be put in a situation where you might need to pull out one of your tricks in your bag. And then I want to talk about Luka's place in the NBA clutch category. To me, at this point, I think he is right there with Dame, maybe a tier below just Dame, because Dame has been doing it for a decade now basically, but Luka is right there. And I think the biggest thing that I take from both of them in those situations is they are not afraid of the moment. They are not afraid of failing in the moment. So a lot of guys, might not be able to handle the pressure of missing a game winner or missing a game-tying shot. But these guys in particular, Dame and Luka, and I'm mentioning these two names because these are two guys that I've heard actually come out and say that they aren't afraid of the moment and they can deal with, making or missing the shot. So once again, Luka pulls a bag out of his trick out of his bag, and sends the Mavs to an all-important win. And I'm just going to go ahead and update the bottom half of the standings right now. Right now in the Western Conference, the 4th seed and the 6th seed are separated by 3.5 games. So you have Denver, who I mentioned last week, lost Jamal Murray, so we'll see how they can kind of recover from that. You have the Lakers at 5. It was announced that AD is on his way back, and he should be returning probably just in time for the Mavs to take on the Lakers in back-to-back games later this month. Then you have Portland at 6 at 31-23. Mavs sitting at 7 at 30-24, so a game behind them, but Portland does have the tiebreaker on the Mavs. Then you have Memphis that's sitting 2.5 games behind Dallas, which is another reason why that game was so critical for the Mavs to win. So not only do they have the tiebreaker, they, instead of only being up half a game on Memphis, they are up 2.5 games. And then you have Golden State and San Antonio right now sitting at the 9 and 10 spot, with the Pelicans 2 games behind the Spurs for that 10 spot. And once again, the play-in situation is designed to have the 10 seed competing for a playoff spot this year. So the Pelicans are not out of the playoff race quite yet. But honestly, like, my point of view is I don't even want to talk about the play-in situation or getting out of the play-in situation for the Mavs, because they've shown time and time again that they will blow that opportunity. And I don't think anything says that more than losing to the Rockets and Spurs in the same week. Both teams had not won a game in April before taking on the Mavs, so be it. So obviously if they get out of it, cool. But if not, I've already set my mind to them not getting out of it. So for the Mavs upcoming, of course, they take on the New York Knicks tonight on ESPN. This is actually the 3rd straight nationally televised ESPN game for the Mavs this week. Then on Sunday, they'll be on at 6:30 taking on the Sacramento Kings. Wednesday, they take on the Detroit Pistons. And then next Thursday, they take on the Los Angeles Lakers in the front end of a home-and-home series. So, realistically, I just want the Mavs to at least go 3-1. You could make a case for them needing to go undefeated in this stretch, but knowing the Mavs basketball and knowing the Mavs, they will not go undefeated in this stretch, even though it might look like they can. So that's going to close it out for my NBA portion of this episode. Next, I want to talk about an NFL trade that I did not hit on last week. So this trade happened, I guess, a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, where the New York Jets sent quarterback Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers in exchange for 3 draft picks. You have a 6th-rounder in this month's draft, and then 2 picks next year, a 2nd and a 4th-rounder. And I think over the past couple of weeks, a lot of people have said a lot of things about Sam Darnold and, whether he's good, whether he's not, whether he can be good, whether he's just not good, just a whole bunch of stuff. But I want to say that I'm not ready to write off Sam Darnold right now as an NFL quarterback. I think the Jets were in a horrendous situation for Sam Darnold, having to play for head coach Adam Gase, not having as many weapons. And I look at Sam Darnold going from the Jets to Carolina as a new opportunity, new life, change of scenery for Sam Darnold, to where I think he can take advantage of him given the opportunity. And I say given the opportunity because it's still not out of the question that Carolina takes a quarterback at 8. They have the 8th pick in the draft. So conceivably, the Carolina Panthers could take a quarterback there. But as far as Sam Darnold goes, I think it's too early to write him off. I don't think any quarterback in that situation with the Jets would flourish. And I think a lot remains to be seen from Sam Darnold's career, with the proper weapons, with the proper coaching. So, again, I think we should hold off on just writing Sam Darnold and calling him trash and a bust and all that kind of stuff. Elsewhere in the NFL, you got Aldon Smith signs a 1-year deal with the Seattle Seahawks. And for those of you that were not aware, the Cowboys had an opportunity to trade Aldon Smith to the Seattle Seahawks during the season before the trade deadline. Instead, they lose him for nothing. So now there were some rumblings during the middle of the season where, did Aldon Smith really want to be in Dallas still? And I was a proponent of trading him at the time, get something for him, because he's not going to be back just based off things that you were hearing from around the star during the season. But yeah, he goes to Seattle, 1-year deal. JaDaveon Clowney signs with the Cleveland Browns. This is another situation where the Browns, they are trying to position themselves into real contender status with the Kansas City Chiefs, with the Buffalo Bills. So this is just another piece on that defense alongside, Myles Garrett and, some of the other guys that they brought in during this offseason. But my personal thoughts on JaDaveon Clowney is there's not a more overrated player in the NFL. I think people still live off the hit back in the bowl game when he played Michigan, where I believe it was Denard Robinson, where he just completely obliterated Denard Robinson in that bowl game. And Clowney's a guy that has not lived up to the NFL potential to this point. For one, he can't stay healthy, and then just the production has just not been there for the majority of his career. Obviously, he is real optimistic about his chances to kind of find his way in Cleveland, playing opposite Myles Garrett, but we'll see. But until I see it on the field, I'm not going to go crazy over Clowney signing in Cleveland. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Mr. Douglass Sports Show. Thanks again for tuning in. I will be back next week with a plethora of topics, including to recap the Mavs week to see if they can actually go undefeated during this next 4-game stretch, or if they will lose a game that they have no business losing. But until next time, salute.